Good afternoon, everyone. So I think we can complete it for just some few minutes to allow other participants to join, and then we can start our webinar. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. So someone has mentioned that they can't hear. I just want to confirm if that is the same case right now. If everything is okay, can just kindly give me a thumbs up, and then we can start the webinar. Okay, so I just wanted to note today, if by any chance you're not registered on FarmCloud, please feel free to let us know, at least to guide you on how to start, and then we can have you onboarded. Okay. So welcome everyone once again, and I'll be giving you a walkthrough of our software platform called FarmCloud, which is mainly used for record keeping. So ideally, it's an end-to-end platform that records your activities from planting up until harvesting. And also after harvesting, where you take your produce, your relationship with buyers, if you want to generate invoices, if you want to record expenses. So it caters for everything inside your farm. So on the summary page, you just get an overview of what is going on in your accounts. So you'll get things like whether you'll get the employees that you have. So if you have more than one users in your farm, you will see various employees indicated, the crops that are in production, the structures, the financial summary, and you get the daily work reports. So depending on how frequently they're updated, you will see the bar graphs updating. So to start, we usually begin with feeding the system information. That being, where what are the structures that you have, what crops are you growing, what is the quantity of input you have in your stock, is there anything you'd love to restock, etc. So the first step is just to feed in information into the platform, and then we can proceed with the next step. So we usually start with the farm element. So the farm element is the initial step in Farm Cloud. So we indicate what is the structure that you're dealing with. So for today, we can have an open field. So we have greenhouses, shade nets, and open field, depending on what you have. But today we'll go with open field. So we can have block Kajiado. Then here we're growing beans. The size we can indicate is 0.5 acres, sorry. Date added is today, and then add. So once you've added that bit of the structure, the next step is to indicate the crop that's being grown there. So you tap on Add a Plant. When you tap on Add a Plant, you will get two options. That is either plant or seedling. So if you don't do normal crop production and you mostly focus on seed propagation, we have a section to accommodate that. So if it's normal plant, is confirmed. So you have to key in this information. So the plant in our case was bean. You select the variety, you select the quantity planted, either in seedlings, seeds, or in kg. We'll go with kgs and indicate we planted 100 kgs, projected output. That is what we expected to get, and then we add. So now the system knows you have a block Kajiado, which you're growing yellow beans, and that is the variety. So that's usually the initial step. If you're doing propagation, you have the seedling batch section. More like the same, so you just follow the prompts that you've been given. You select the seedling variety, you select the seedling lot. I'll show you where you're supposed to key in this information, and then the lot quantity in kgs, the lot quantity in kgs, and then you indicate either you planted in an individual seedlings or it was in trays. So if it is individual seedlings, you'll have to reach the total number of seedlings. If it's in trays, I indicate the number of trays, and one tray can accommodate how many seedlings. So once that's done, you add that report. So that is specifically if you're doing seed propagation. Other than that, we can now head over to the farm inventory. So the farm inventory, like I mentioned, also in this section, we're doing inventory. of the farm inputs and seedlings. So if you know the specific seedlings that you will want to propagate, you're advised to include them in the farm inventory section first so that it can appear in farm elements when you're adding the plant information. So under fertilizer, it's just basically include in the system. Are you restocking? What's the quantity you have in your farm so far? So you tap on add a fertilizer. When you select add a fertilizer, you will search for the specific fertilizer you want to add. So we have various fertilizers added into the system, and then you select supplier. And in this case, kindly note if by any chance there's a specific dealer that you work with that supplies your farm inputs, and you'd love to maintain consistent records of who is supplying the farm inputs, if you can as easy indicate the name. Let's put agro dealers. So once you enter a name that's not available in the system, it is going to give you the option to create that specific supplier that you're working with. And the benefit of it is that it will only be visible to your account. So you can add it's customized according to what who your supplier is, but it won't be available to every user of the platform. So you select the quantity, the minimum quantity allowed, which is 5, and then you add. So once you add it, ideally you're going to get something like this. I've already had added it in the system, that's why. So ideally you're going to get something like this. And a point to note when I mentioned the minimum quantity alert. So minimum quantity alert is just to gauge yourself. So the more you're using the fertilizer, the more it's going to depreciate on this other side. So once the alert quantity and the available quantity are the same, the status is going to be in low, and you'll get a notification here for you to restock. The ammonia fertilizer is running low. It's a key sign for you to restock. And then next we have agrochemicals. So agrochemicals are exactly the same thing that you did to fertilizers are the same thing you're going to do for agrochemicals. Maybe I can take you through the seedlings section. So as stated, in order for you to be able to in order for you to be able to in order for you to be able to add to track the propagation that you're doing, you need first to have an inventory of the specific seedlings that you're working with. But in this case, just generally indicates if you want to propagate seedlings for beans, just have a record that yes, we'd love to propagate beans, and you've added it in the inventory. So you tap on add a seedling. So you'll be required to give the seedling a name. So mostly the name is the plant. So you will select the specific plant. Let me go with Tarragon, and then you select the variety, and then from there you'll now indicate the lot number, the information that was being asked when you're entering it in farm elements. So you'll give it the lot number depending on how you keep your records. So in our case, we can have it as B BMW BMW 12, the quantity. So either in kgs, in grams, in milligrams. So depending in Nikuja, it has come in what quantity. If it is in kg, if it is in grams, we can have it as kg and indicate its total 10 kgs in total. The supplier again, if you'd love to indicate a specific supplier that provides the seeds and seedlings, you will just write the name and the system will give you the option to add it. As you can see, we have now agro dealers as part of our, and then we add. As you can see, Tarragon is included. So the next step after we've done the inventory, now the system knows we have this block, the growing beans, the farm inputs are like this and this and this. So the next step is to do the daily work report. So now the daily work report, just as the name suggests, all the activities that you're doing in the farm, fertilizer application being one of them, scouting, irrigation, pre-harvest, harvest, and other. So I'll just walk you through each and every report. And please note if there's any questions that you have, kindly feel free to let us know. We'll be happy to address them. So on the fertilizer, so the trick in doing daily work reports, you have to attach it to an element. Once you attach it to an element, some of the information will be automatically generated for you. So for example, um, some elements in our case, we were dealing with block Kajiado. Here it is. Once you select the element, the system already knows what you are doing in that block, which is this one. And then the stage, you have to select the various stages that you're working with. So we have planting up until in our case, since we're beginning, we will just leave it at planting. And then from there, since it's fertilizer application, we need to select the fertilizer that we are applying, the date of application, the time of application, the quantity that you are applying, and the system will always give you an overview so that you can have so that you can know what you have currently in your stock. So we can indicate you applied 10 kgs. Method of application, you can have it as drenching, and then you give a brief explanation. So first application on the first block, and then you save the report. Another thing to note, there are some reports whereby you're allowed to add as many reports as possible, and that is only available under fertilizers, agrochemicals, and the harvest report. So for those three, you can add as many reports as possible. So after fertilizers, agrochemicals, just like I had said, in farm assets are more like the same thing we've done for fertilizers are the same thing we do for agrochemicals. So let's head over to scouting. So on the scouting report, what were you able to see while at your farm? Anything that's record worthy that will be useful to your record keeping. This is the section to indicate it. So again, we need to select the structure that we are attaching this report to. From there, the variety is automatically selected. So this one we can go with sprouting, the date of sprouting, and then you give a brief description. So seedlings, mm, seedling germination, and then you can attach images. Since you're seeing the sprouting going on, attach images to show exactly what you saw, so that whoever will review the records can have a better overview of what exactly you saw at the farm. Additionally, this report is quite impactful if by any chance you do work with an agronomist. It gives them an easy time to understand what could be the problem in case there's any infestation or the crops are stressed. It gives a clear roadmap on how to identify what the issue could be and when the issue possibly began. And then you can also attach any additional notes that are applicable. And then so after scouting, you have manual irrigation, and manual irrigation is just basically what was the amount of water you had irrigated for. So the same steps you've been doing. You select the element, the stage that you're in, the time of application, the duration, quantity in liters, we can say 100 liters, method used, drip irrigation, and then attach any brief note that's applicable, and then add. Then you can head over to the pre-harvest report. So on a pre-harvest report, it's just basically to gauge yourself if there's any correction required before you can consider yourself ready for harvesting. Same thing we've been doing, but the only difference with this report is that you get a checklist. So you get a checklist to confirm if everything is in check in your farm or there's any correctional measures that are required. So you attach it to the specific block, the stage, date, and then you know mark the checklist depending on the reality at your farm. If there's any correctional measures that need to be taken, This report will help you guide on how to rectify it. So before we cover the harvest report, I'd love for us to do other. So out of what we've highlighted here, other activities are usually done in the farm. So if there's any unique report you'd love to include in the system, all you need to do is just give the report a name. After given the report a name, we now proceed with the normal procedure that we've been doing. Select element, select plant, the date, to give a brief description, because in this case it's a unique report. So you're required to give a brief description. You can give a brief description, attach images, and also attach any additional notes that you might have. And then you add. Yes. So probably let's cover the harvest report, and then I'll give room for any questions, and then we can cover the next topic. So under harvest report, just as the name suggests, now we are the last step of our season. We want to harvest. So again, we need to attach that report to where exactly am I harvesting. We were planting this and we're now ready for harvest. The date, the time, and the harvest you usually have three options: either high quality harvest, low quality harvest, harvest lost in transit, harvest lost. It can be in transit, it can be theft, it can be whatever the case it might be. So, just to know, if by any chance whatever you're growing does not apply, you cannot indicate the low quality harvest or the harvest loss. That's totally fine. But if you want to maintain accurate records so that you can have an overview of this is what I was anticipating to harvest, and this is what I got, and this is what was spoiled. You can also include it just to have a proper record. As I said earlier, under harvest report, you can have as many reports as possible. So let's add and indicate we harvested a total of 50,000 kgs. Low quality harvest, you can have it as we didn't have any, and harvest lost in transit, we can assume we didn't have any, so we can just leave it blank. That's fine. And then now, if you tap on add another report, as you can see the system is allowing you to add another report. So if you're harvesting at multiple sections in your farm, if there's a greenhouse that's ready for harvesting, if you have several blocks, sorry, that are ready for harvesting, this is the you can add as many reports as possible. So in our case, we'll just add one and probably indicate it as first season harvest, and then save. Yes. And then something to note. So if by any chance you'd love to venture into exports, or the buyers that you deal with are quite strict with your production process, we do provide a traceability report. So if you want to provide compliance, cloud got you covered. So you can generate a traceability report and provide compliance to your buyers. If you're exporting, if you're locally selling them, we have a section to accommodate for that. The next thing for us to cover is going to be the weather and satellite feature, but maybe if I can just leave room for any questions before we proceed, and then yeah, be happy to answer them. And by the way, we can give freedom to if you'd love to speak while asking the question, that's totally fine. But if you prefer, you can just shoot us a quick chat, and we also have a Q&A section, so you can feel free to let us know. If there's none, I'd highly appreciate a thumbs up so that I may know we are ready to proceed. Okay, perfect. So let's head over to weather and satellite feature. So we made some few enhancements on our weather and satellite feature, but mostly on the interface. Yes. So let me just show you. So just an overview of what weather and satellite does. So we give you the weather forecast and you get to monitor how healthy your crops are doing with the help of index. Now this is the section for satellite. To show you the changes, when you tap on create a farm boundary, as you can see now these are part of the changes that we had made. The interface is a bit different compared to what we had previously. So we can have it so while plotting your farm boundary, kindly visually advise just search your farm location. Once you've searched your farm location, if you're not able to pin it, the exact location of your farm, just use a famous landmark. Once you found a famous landmark on the map, you can now proceed with just searching and checking where your farm is. And for easier maneuvering, when you tap on the hand-like figure, you get to maneuver quite easily. If you want to plot, this is the section to do it. So I'll just do a brief illustration on how to plot a farm boundary. So if you want to plot a farm boundary, you tap on this section on this figure. So it looks like an inverted triangle polygon. That's one. So when you tap on it, it will give you the plus sign. So once you have the plus sign, that's a clear indication that you can now proceed with plotting. So once that's done, you need to give your block a name. You can give it block beans, and then now you have to attach it to an open field. So point to note, the weather and satellite picture works effectively when it's an open field setup. Greenhouses not highly advisable because the satellite can see through the polythene paper. So where you'd get the most results is when if it's an open field block. So once that's done, you're supposed to create that report. So I'll just head over to one of the boundaries that I've done before. I walk you through the features. So let's go with this one. Okay. So first of all, as you can see, you'll get the temperature information, maximum and minimum temperature and precipitation level. You also get the total area covered. You also get the soil data, temperature at the top, depth, temperature 10 centimeters deep, and you also get the soil moisture. And then from there, under the weather forecast, you get three types of forecast. You either get hourly, daily, or historical weather forecast. So if you just select, it will show you 5 days ahead up until 4th March what the weather is looking like. As you can see, this season we're having some showers of rain, but tomorrow there'll be some sort of sunshine. But now the weather information is basically strictly to your farm. And then under historical weather, in historical weather, it shows you how the weather was the previous times. And to be specific, you can only check up until an year back. So the furthest you can check is February 2025. So let's head over to satellite data. Satellite data analyzes the health of the crops with the help of indices. As you can see, we have various indices and we've attached explanation of each and every index. But just to make it easier and a bit understandable during our session today, so we usually classify the indices into two. So we have indices that focus on the healthiness and greenness of the crop, and we have indices that monitor the moisture levels of the crop. So, the ones that monitor the greenness and healthiness of the crops, we have NDVI, EVI, EVI2, and NRI. So, just to summarize it, the higher the value in those four indices that I've mentioned, the higher the value, the indication of a healthy crop. The lower the value, the indication of a stressed crop. Now, under moisture, we have NDWI and DSWI. So for NDWI, The higher the value, the indication that there is sufficient water in the crops and in the soil, and also the surrounding is green, like surrounding, like there's enough water, moisture around. Now, DSWI is the opposite because it's drought severity water index. So, higher value of DSWI, it's an indication that that place either the crops are stressed, it's drought stricken, or it's a bare land. Like there isn't anything there. So that's just to summarize what the indices stand for. So if you'd also love to export this data for further analyzing, we'll give you the option to export it, and you can do a deep dive and analyze the data. Also, you can filter out the specific months you'd want to check your NBVI data and be able to get the report. Um, The next step we're supposed to do is going to be the accounting feature, market feature, and I will be inviting my colleague Sam to take us through that. But before we do so, I'd love at least to hear from your side if there's any questions, if there's anything that wasn't as clear, I'll be happy to address them. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay. So regarding the first question, if this data can be category, yes, you can. You definitely get the option to backtrack if possibly if I can go there and show you. So even if you're starting to join FarmCloud now and you applied your fertilizer 2 weeks ago, if you go here, you can go as back as possible and now select the time date. Sorry, there was another question here. Someone mentioned that under the bronze, I noticed that in the bronze subscription trial version, you cannot populate the expenses and income data. Yes, that's actually a very good question. So now FarmCloud comes in packages. In some packages, to be specific, bronze package is limited because it's a free package. So part of the features you're not going to get is the accounting feature. But we usually give our customers a leeway to test out our products before fully um, submitting to a subscription or investing in it. So once you're registering on SoundCloud, you will be prompted to subscribe. So now, if you want to try out the paid version just to see if it will be effective in your operation, you can select a trial period. So we'll give you free. You get free access to all the features for 30 days just to try out the platform. If everything is in line, you can go ahead and now get fully onboarded on that specific package. Yes. So we do provide a trial period for you to try out our paid packages. But yes, just to answer your question, the bronze package is limited to some features. So thank you so much for your question. I don't know if there's anyone else who has another question. So there's another question. Yes, so we someone have asked, but within that, mm, but why would you not? Or someone is saying, but she will not have harvested within the 3 month trial period. So to be specific, the trial period is for 30 days, and the subscription is the one that runs on 3 months. So now, I do get your point, that within 30 days you might not have harvested, but it's just to give you an understanding of what the full package comes with. So if after, I think 30 days is enough time for you to evaluate if something is will be suitable for your needs. And if everything is in line, you can now proceed and get now the full package, because a subscription is usually run for 3 months, which is fairly enough time. If you're planting compared to having it a subscription on a monthly basis, which won't be enough time considering the type of production, which is crop production. Yes. I don't know if there's any other question. Please feel free to ask. If there are no further questions, please just give me a thumbs up, and then you can invite my colleague, and then we proceed to the next step. Okay, so before my colleague joins, let me just finish up on one pending feature. So as you can see here, we have Farm Shell. So Functional is our smart device that we use to automate irrigation. So if you have Functional can automate irrigation because it has moisture sensors, and it's able to tell when the moisture levels are low, it triggers the water valve, it irrigates for you. Once moisture levels are enough, it stops irrigating, and so on and so on. But it has other sensors other than moisture. So as you can see here, let me walk you first through the moisture sensor. As you can see here, it will give you basic information that whatever the device is doing at your farm. You can know if the valve is open and it's irrigating. As you can see now, in my case, it's currently irrigating. You're getting the soil moisture levels, the amount of water dispensed, and then now this was specifically on water. We do have other sensors. So it has sensors like NPK, as you can see here. So the NPK sensor is to monitor the fertilizer levels. So anytime if potassium is low, you'll know there's a key sign for you to input fertilizers that are high in potassium. We also have temperature. We also have humidity. So part of the products that we have is a solar dryer, and we've incorporated the farm shield to monitor the temperature levels and the humidity levels inside the solar dryer. So if you're a farmer and you'd love to incorporate farm shield, so farm shield is only visible if you have it in your farm. So if you're here and farm shield is something of interest, feel free to let me know. We can have an in-depth session on farm shield, sorry, and then I can walk you through the device. So yeah, I'll invite my colleague Sam to take us through the accounting feature and the marketplace. In the meantime, if there's any questions, just feel free to drop us a chat. We're happy to address. So someone is asking how does farm shield work in a greenhouse that does not have the opening and closing vents? So that's totally fine because its main farm shield can be used both in an open field setup or in a greenhouse. So even if you're the only challenge in this case, with your greenhouse not being able to open and close the vents, if for example you have the temperature sensor, if the temperatures are too high inside your greenhouse, there is no means for you to mitigate it because you don't have You can't open and close the vent. But alternatively, other than temperature, if you want to automate the irrigation, it can definitely be incorporated. Either way, we can definitely incorporate fan shield inside your greenhouse, whether the vents are opening or not. The only issue will now be if it gets too hot, there's no way to rectify it. Otherwise, we can definitely install it. I hope I've answered your question. If anyone else has a question, feel free to let me know. Okay, if there's none, I think I can invite Sam, and then we can proceed from there. Feel free to bring in the questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Give me a minute as I share my screen. My name is Samuel. I am co-host for our monthly webinar alongside Stacy. And welcome to our monthly webinar once again. Just a minute. Right. So in our accounting feature, it comes bundled up with products and services, income and expenses, alongside buyers. And let me start with income, then expenses, then products and services, then buyers. But one thing to note is when you're recording your daily work reports, once you record a harvest report, the the plant from which you recorded the harvest report is automatically transferred to products and services. So once you create a harvest report for a given product, you'll see it appear in this listing table for products and services. Products and services are the items, goods from maybe the ones you've grown in your farm and the ones which you haven't grown in your farm but you wish to sell or to sell to other buyers, maybe in terms of service or other goods. So you can come to products and services and manually enter that product. But if it is a crop that you grew in your farm, once you record a harvest report, the crop will automatically appear in this table. So to add manually, you press this add product button, and then you have to write the product name and the type. For type, we have from asset, service, and then the farm product, and also the unit of measurement and the description. Then you add. It's quite straightforward, and get this interface for showing you your product, which now you can be able to take actions on a given product. You can be able to read it, archive, or delete a product. So once you have your products ready, you come to income. Income is where you now record your expenses. You now record the invoice rather, and also you record that you have received payment for that invoice. And for invoices, you cannot create an invoice without a product. So first you must have a product, then you can be able to create invoices and receive payments. Also, when creating invoices, you create invoice for a given buyer. So you must first have a buyer, before you create an invoice. If it happens that you're yet to add a buyer during the invoice creation step, you'll be prompted to add the buyer in this interface. So let me show you. So this is how the income interface looks like. Then you add an invoice. Then this is what I was telling you. When you search for a buyer and you can see that you don't have that buyer in your form, so you have to create the buyer. Then you have the currency, the first name, which is optional, the buyer details, the last name. Currency is the currency of the buyer. Maybe the buyer is in Rwanda or Ethiopia or reverse. You'll be able to enter the currency in which you'll be transacting. And also we have the billing address of the buyer. And this checkbox reads if the shipping is the same as billing address. So you notice that when the checkbox is checked, the shipping fields the shipping address fields are not shown because it shows that the shipping address is the same as billing address. So it autofills. The system autofills the shipping address field. If not, you can be able to add a value. Then you have lots of attachments and then payment terms. Payment terms you record invoice period and the payment method, whether in person, cash, or bank transfer. Then once you create your buyer, when you search next time for the buyer, you'll be able to see the buyers are listed over here. So then you have to fill your invoice number. You can leave it as it is blank and the system will auto generate it for you. Then the date issued and the date of when you expect to be paid for the goods or the services that you provided. So you can see that. Then we have another checkbox which reads custom billing or shipping address. So remember when you are creating the buyer, you had billing and shipping fields when you were creating the buyer. Now, if those addresses change and the buyer is not using the same address for shipping and billing, you can check the box and you'll be able to be provided with billing address field and shipping address field where the product will be shipped. And then for invoice items, we have product, the description, the quantity, unit price, tax, and amount. So for product, we these are the products that exist already in the fund. One from the harvest report you created, where the product is automatically listed in the products and services. And then two is when you manually add a product to your form. So you can see we have spades is manually added to and then big, very high quality harvest is automatically created from added from when you create a harvest report. So let's say this product, its description, quantity, and unit price. Unit price is price for one quantity. So we have 10. So price for one, you can set it for 100 for demonstration purposes. And then you see the amount is 1000. Then here we have taxes. Uh, if the product is subject to tax, you record the tax. Say you can say like VAT, and then say like VAT is value added tax. But make sure to record correctly the amount of tax this product falls under, and then you save. Um, then you'll be able to see the taxes we have, VAT, we have withholding, we have then over here we'll have payment details, which is whether mobile money or cash, and then you have payment method. Once you choose mobile money, you have to select a payment method. Uh, the options which you see here, send money, these were previously recorded. So once you add a payment method, let's say mobile money, you'll be able to uh, key in the phone number if it is in money. For pay bill, we'll have business number and account number, and then for clear, we'll have the till number. So see this table button over here, it reads like if you want to save the payment that you're creating for future reference. So when you come next time to create an invoice, you don't have to manually add a payment method you can pick from already existing, which are already here. So once you save the information for payment details will be listed over here. So you just have to select one and then you record the notes. And then on this right side, we have the subtotal. This is the breakdown of the amounts where we can select the discount in terms of percentage of cash. And then if we include a shipping fee when shipping to the buyer's location and the tax breakdown, we added a 16% VAT. So you see our total will be 1,160. Then here we save the invoice. Then once you save your invoice, you'll be able to see the buyer information, the invoice number, which could be automatically generated by the system, or you manually enter the invoice number, then the due date, the invoice amount, the paid, remaining, and status. So paid is the amount that you have been paid by the buyer, and then remaining is if the buyer has a raise. So like these invoices here, we have invoice amount was 11,000, and then the buyer paid 1,000, and now the remaining amount is the balance. And you can see the status, which is overdue, meaning that the invoice was overdue, and now we can be able to view the invoice, edit the invoice, void if we no longer have to we no longer have transaction with the buyer, and also we can be able to delete. So for viewing the invoice, you can see this is how the invoice looks like. Then you can be able to download it or you can edit the invoice. So here we have the location where we are billing to, which includes the buyer name, the address, and the phone number. Then the date the invoice has been issued and the due date. Then our invoice line items, which is the product items, which we have the description, the cost, the quantity, tax rate, and then the total tax. And then we have the payment details and the invoice notes, and that's it. It's very clear. You can be able to read it. On the left side, we have the payments table. Now, every time your invoice receives payment, to be recorded in this table, so you can be able to see like 1,000 was paid, and you see here we have 1,000 has been paid. So there is one more amount has been paid, and the payment method and the reference number for the payment, the status. Then can go back and receive payment for an invoice. Okay. So here you select the buy. Remember when you receive a payment, you must have created an invoice. So you select bill buy who has pending invoices. Check on the invoices. Okay, so next we select the payment method. If it is bank, cash, or mobile money, the one the buyer paid with. Then we have the information about the selected buyer. And then the credit balance is zero, the total amount received. So maybe you can say like here you record the amount the buyer has paid you, and then you select the date. And now invoices, if this buyer had pending invoices, you'll have to select here from the list of invoices you wish to receive payments for. Then once you record you select the invoice, you can be able to save and close. And then once you save and close the payments, you'll be able to see them in this payment table over here. And again, you can see now the entire payments that have been made in your form by all the buyers alongside the invoices in your form by all the buyers. So next part, we're going to move to expenses. For expenses, we have two categories. We have general expenses, as you can see, and then we have farm element expenses. General expenses are not linked to any farm element. So for farm element, we have these elements: greenhouse, greenhouse, shedlets, and open fields. Then for the next one, we have element specific, which are linked to farm elements, and general are not linked to any farm elements. When when you want to add expense, you have to say which type of expense you're adding, but the process is just the same. So we have our general expense and our element specific expense. So let me show you how to fill in element specific expense. But the process is the same for a general expense. So you first select the expense, then the next one, in category from element name. So category we say link is from element name, and then we say plant variety, then the supplier, and the date the expense is incurred, the cost, and the payment method. You can choose to upload a receipt for certifying that you incurred this expense and this amount was paid, so that you can reinforce trust leadership in the platform. And then the description. Then you add. So once you add, your expenses will be listed over here. So if it was a farm worker who recorded the expense, you will have to approve the expense if you're a farm owner. So once you come back to your platform, you'll be able to approve an expense if it was recorded by a farm worker. Then that expense, once it has been approved, you'll see it under farm element expense if it was a farm element one, or general expenses. Then the total expense will be updated automatically. Then you can also choose to edit the expense if maybe you entered the wrong values, so there are other data that you want to edit, and then you can delete the expense if it was an incorrectly captured expense and you didn't incur the cost of the activity that you recorded in the expense. Then I have already shown you the bias, but I'll show you how the buyer listing page looks like. So here, these are the buyers which are the buyers whom you transact with in your farm locally. They're only available in your farm. So you have to add this buyer manually and so that you can do the transact with them. So for farm stuff, we have this situation where you as a farm owner, you won't be available in your farm throughout, but you have maybe a farm hand. So you can invite them by sending an invite where you record their email address and select the role as a farm worker or farm manager. Then when you later come back to Farm Cloud as a farm owner, you can be able to see what they did. And if it's expenses, you can be able to approve them and the likes, and any other reports. They'll be handling the logging of the details for reports and maintaining the application on your behalf. Then they have to accept the invite before it expires so that they can have access to the form. And then the next part is marketplace. But before we go to marketplace, if you have any question, let me answer your question. You can raise up your hand and I'll be able to answer you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sam, for that illustration. So there are actually some several questions. So someone asked if they will be able to get any alerts to open the greenhouse doors due to the lower temperature. So it's ideally is when the temperatures are high. Yes, but yes, you do get alerts. The next question was on if if I was to give you my soil and water testing results, would you be able to realistically give me the target yield for a given crop through your agronomic service? So, for us to identify the yield, I think the size of the land matters. But if you were to provide your soil and water testing, it will just ideally guide you if the soil is suitable for farming and if the water is suitable for farming. So that if they need to treat the soil and the water um, before you start planting, just to mitigate any risk that might occur of us not testing. So to answer your question, yes, you can provide your soil and water testing for it to be analyzed, but it won't necessarily be on the yield production, but rather on the suitability for you to plant. For yield, you would rather just share the crop, the size of the land, and ideally the crop. So through the soil and water testing, we'd also be able to guide you on the crop to go for. And I think from there we'll be in a better position to give you an estimate of the expected yield. Another question was on can you give me insights on the best crop to grow in a greenhouse, specifically 8 meters by 30, market driven information. So yes, you can be assisted with that information, but under our agronomic support program. And regards to markets, yes, definitely it's going to be market driven information, but that's usually covered under the agronomic support package. So I think for the next question, my colleague Sam is going to assist you on that. So the question goes, can you tell us from your market linkages option what quantities buyers usually demand for a given commodity on a monthly basis?
As for the next question, which reads, as Stacy has read, can you tell us from your market linkage option what quantities buyer actually demand for a given commodity on a monthly basis? So we released the market linkage feature mid last month. So right now we're still verifying buyers. They haven't been completely verified to start writing request for quotes to farmers. But once we have that data, we'll be able to provide it in the next webinar once we have verified buyers in FarmCloud. So right now we're just verifying the documents and the likes so that we can ensure that the buyers in FarmCloud are trustworthy and farmers can be able to transact with them without any fear of loss of anything. Thank you.
Someone is asking is general information is general information on how other farmers are performing on a given crop available just to compare notes. Um, so for this one, because due to privacy reasons, we cannot be monitoring how a farmer that we've worked with, how their crops are progressing. Though we do have success stories on farmers using our solution to enhance their farming. I wouldn't necessarily say there's any information for you we can share for you to compare. The best thing we can offer as of the moment is the success stories and possibly organizing for farm visits, farm visit of a farm we previously worked with.
Okay, great. So next, let's move to market linkage. I'll explain how quotations, what quotations are, and how you respond to requests for quote from buyers. So first, let me log in as a buyer so that you can see how the interface from buyers look like and how a request for quote is created. Maybe among the attendees, there is one who is an aspiring buyer in Farm Cloud Marketplace. So just a minute, then I'll show you how it looks like. Then you can have an overview of it, and then go back to the farmer side, and then have an overview of the quotations and orders, and then the So once I log in as a buyer, I will have this dashboard which shows the request for quote stats as open quotes, awarded quotes, pending quotes, and rejected quotes. And also, I'll be able to see the recent request for quote and recent orders. So as a buyer first, I'll have to go to the RFQ portal where I can create my RFQs. These are RFQs which have been created by the buyer. They've been viewed by the team, maybe accepted, maybe rejected. Others have been awarded quotation like that. So we create a new RFQ. Then you have to provide the RFQ title, the description, product specifications, as product name, the quantity, the product variety, the quality of the product, and any notes. Then the certification, which includes a list of record certificates. You enter them as a list separated with commas, comma like this. And then we have delivery preferences. If you would want the order to be delivered, or if you're going to pick it from the farmer's place. Then the notes, any special request during the delivery. And then the timeline. This is the court deadline is when we have court deadline and the desired delivery date. So court deadline is the last day you expect to receive a quotation, and then the desired delivery date is the date where you expect the order to be fulfilled from the farmer. Then you have payment terms and currency, and payment terms are not 7 days when you expect the to pay the money, and you have cash, you have other net 30 days. You select the one that is suitable to you, and you can select other and specify with your requirements. And then you have currency, the currency that the farmer will use. Then you have minimum budget range and maximum. So minimum budget range is the minimum value of the request for quote, and the maximum is the maximum range of the maximum value of the request for quote. So that if a farmer responds to your quotation, you check if it is within the minimum and maximum range, but this is optional. But and also you have proof of funds. Proof of funds is you certifying to Senefa that you are able to provide the funds when provided with the goods by the buyer. Then Senefa will review the proof of funds. If you meet the required uh, certification criteria, your request for quote will be approved, and the buyer and the farmers on the other side of farm will be able to see them. Then you have additional information as attachments and links, which you can use to support your request for quote. Then once that is done, you have the buy portal as a buyer again, where you'll be able to browse and purchase fresh produce right from the farm, where now farmers will list their goods. This one is yet to come. Just giving you a snapshot of it, and then you'll be able to track orders in real time. Now we have a last feature here, which is orders. Now orders is generated automatically when you as the buyer and with their corresponding farmer, you accept the terms of the quotation. So once a farmer responds to your request for quote with the quotation, you accept it, and then also the farmer accept the quotation. Accept the quotation. Now an order will be automatically created by the farm claim system, which now we use to track the delivery and the payment of the goods that were specified in the request for quote. That is all about the buyer interface. It is very, very simple. And then here we have can view the details of the request for quote, where you can see the timeline. The timeline shows you the steps, and also the activity shows you um, what steps your RFQ has gone through. Timeline shows you the steps one from another from the time you submit and what is your required next step and what the current step the RFQ is at. Then we go back to orders. Then you can view the details for the order. Then for order, you have the farmer information, the link to request for quote, now the order timeline. Again, it shows you the stage in which the order is. You have the created, confirmed, and cancelled, confirmed and acknowledged by the farmer. Then let's go back to the buyer, the farmer's page. If you have any question on the buyer, you can raise up your hand or type. I'll be able to respond. Then once I log in as a farmer, I'll be able to see my the request for quotes which have been listed by the buyers, various buyers in FarmCloud. And if either of these requests for quotes is fitting the budget, or if the goods requested here I am growing them in my farm, or maybe I can get them, I have to respond with a quotation. So this is how usually when I respond. Um, so you can be able to respond only once within for a given quotation. And as you can see, this deadline has passed. So this is where you submit your quotation. Once you submit your quotation, you'll be offered with an interface to enter your quotation details, which you can, once you have entered them, you can be able to see them over here, which is the RFQ reference, the price and quantity, the delivery details, and the timeline. Then here we have the quotation, where these are all the quotations that you have created for given RFQs. You'll be able to view the status as rejected, and the review still hasn't been accepted yet and rejected by the buyer himself. Then for orders, as I said, when you're on the buyer's interface, this order is created automatically when a buyer and the farmer agree to the terms of the quotation, and now they can use the model to track the stage in which the goods are at, that is, if they have been delivered or and if they have been paid. So once you confirm that you've received the funds as a farmer, and the buyer confirms, once the buyer confirms they have received the goods, and you confirm you have received the funds from the buyer, the order status will transition to complete, and that marks the end of the process of the marketplace feature. So if you have any question, kindly let me know, and then you can answer them so that you can wrap up, and I can show you any other information that you'd like. If you want me to repeat something that you missed, or maybe you can later and you want more clarification on our feature, I'll be able to help you with that.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sam, for that. We are past over time, so I think it's safe for us to conclude. So mine is just to appreciate everyone who was able to attend the session today. Thank you so much for making it productive. And we look forward to meeting you in our next session. And I wish everyone